Jack Valero is founder of Catholic Voices and commentator on church affairs. He joins us now from London. Good to have you with us. So first of all, talk us through the sense of sadness that must be sweeping through the Catholic world at this point.
Yes, I mean, we knew he was ill and he had been in hospital, but it's always shocking to know that somebody has died. We saw him yesterday at the blessing of the Urbi et Orbi, which happens every Easter, and he was there, he started it, he couldn't read it, but then he went around the square seeing people. His dedication was amazing to the very last minute. So I think people are sad. This was a Pope who was very close to people who are suffering. You've mentioned people discriminated against, like homosexuals or the divorced, but he was always very close also to prisoners, migrants, the poor. So here's somebody who turned it around and said, well, the important thing is to be close to people, and especially people who are suffering. So I think he will be much mourned.
What sort of impact did he have on the direction of the church when it comes to some of the key issues?
Well, one of the things he said right from the very beginning, I think on the first day, he talked about the mercy of God. And this was a theme that was that came up throughout his pontificate. So rather than rules or commandments or ethical principles, he wanted to emphasize that God loves you, whatever you have done, independently of who you are or what you believe or what you have done. God loves you more than you love yourself. And once you understand this principle, then you can get close to God. And I think that he's obviously a very, the Pope is a Catholic, that's a truism, and he subscribed to all the doctrines of the church, so he didn't want to change any doctrines, but he wanted to give a new emphasis, which is to say that God is close to you, God loves you, and that everything else comes from that. And unless we understand that, then the other things could become meaningless. So, he is close to you if you're homosexual, if you are divorced, and if you feel alienated from the church, or if you've had a bad experience, or indeed if you have been a victim of abuse, and the church has to apologize and make up to you. God is close to you. That was his main message. The name of God is mercy. And he kept saying that from the very first day.
You mentioned there some of the controversies about abuse. How will he be remembered and his legacy be seen when it came to dealing with some of those issues?
Well, on the subject of abuse, it's a very thorny issue. Obviously, it was already there when he arrived. It wasn't something he created, and he took a lot of action. At one point, in fact, he said, I've got it wrong. He went to Chile, and he seemed to be close to a bishop who had been involved in some abusive issues, and he apologized to the world and said, I got it wrong. I didn't understand it. And then he called the head of the Catholic Church in each country to Rome and had a meeting there in 2019 where he went through the whole thing to take firm action. I mean, obviously, firm action had already been taken by Benedict, but because it was such a big issue, it was not enough. And even what the Pope Francis did is only work in progress. But he did take it very seriously, the work in progress. He also got some comeback on approaching people in need, and some thought that he would be changing the doctrines of the church in order to appeal to homosexuals or the divorced or the illegal migrants or whatever, and that was not the case. I mean, he was very strong on loving the people, but rejecting ideological solutions to their problems, So I think this is another thing that he will be remembered by, how close to the people he was whilst remaining faithful to his beliefs.
Does some of that position, do you think, relates to his background as the first pope hailing from Latin America?
Yes, indeed. In fact, there was a meeting in 2007 in South America about the development of the church up to then and in the future in Brazil, in Aparecida, and he had a very important role there. And there, a pastoral program for the church was more or less talked about and designed, and he took that up and made it the program of the Catholic Church at large, which is based on the kind of things I've been saying about being close to the people, about the people of God and their ability to be close to God, and being close to their needs and solving their needs, and not so much a European vision of the church. Obviously, the world is very polarized. Even the church is polarized, and this has also hit his pontificate. But in the end, I think people will see that he wanted to be close to people. He didn't want to create the polarization. He was dealing with it.
And we know, for example, because you were mentioning his legacy and how he left an impact and how he will be remembered. On March 25th, 2022, Pope Francis consecrated Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary alongside with Ukraine. Talk us through how some of his stances had a political impact as well, because we have to remember, of course, he's a head of state.
Yes, and even if he wasn't, his pronouncements and his actions have a political angle, and very strong political angle. He's a great pacifist. I mean, he's very much in favor of peace, as was Benedict and John Paul II. They were totally against war, and he has continued in this tradition. And this is a very difficult balance to strike, because obviously Russia invaded parts of Ukraine as an aggressor, and the Pope did not take sides like many people did for Ukraine to start a war to defend themselves. He saw that this was happening, but he was always appealing for peace. I mean, he wanted to see beyond this. Yes, there's some injustice happened, and also Israel, Gaza, this injustice that has caused this, but we should be working very hard for peace, and much harder than we have done up to now. And so he was sad that this was going on, but he would remain on the sidelines thinking, what can I do to promote peace in Ukraine? What can I do to promote peace in the Middle East? And of course, these actions have a political angle, and he knew it, and he wanted to use his power in a way. He didn't want to have power, but this power that he had from the papacy to promote peace and understanding. And, he went to Abu Dhabi and signed a paper of understanding between Christianity and Islam. And again, he wanted to overcome decades, centuries of misunderstandings and war and conflict with this kind of thing. So I think he was so keen on this, on peace, and as a necessary condition to live your religion and to love other people, and how difficult this is if there is a war going on, or there's wars. And he kept talking about a third world war in pieces, in bits, happening around the world in a very sad way. So I think this is another thing he will be remembered by, his desire for peace everywhere.
All right, thank you very much for giving us your thoughts on this. Delighted to have you with us. All right, let's go now to our